The Hall of Fame game between the Bears and the Texans, it was an entertaining game. It was a little bit of a shootout match for a little bit of the game until Tim Boyle came in and the weather blessed us from having to see him continue on whatever he was about to cook up. A masterclass ass performance, maybe. But Brett Rippin and Collin Johnson, they put on a great performance. They had the commentators saying, Collin Johnson was going to be the next Andre Johnson. Shout out to Andre Johnson for making the Hall of Fame and the great career he had with the Texans. But, that's kind of crazy to say. Collin Johnson, though, I think he was the biggest winner of the Hall of Fame game. He had a great performance, 3 catches, 56 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he showed everything. The route running was there, going up for the 50 balls, going up and getting jump balls and, 2 touchdowns showing that he could get in the end zone and he's elusive enough and the yards after the catch maybe could be there as well. But this is a guy that's 6'6", 225 pounds. He has a great story. He started off his career getting, banged up, a lot of injuries he's, faced. I mean, last year he was on the practice squad for the Bears. He got activated and played a couple games last season for the Bears. But this is a guy that could do some things that none of the other receivers on our roster can. Really, I mean, just being that big body presence, that physical receiver, 6'6", 225 pounds, physical specimen. Nobody on this roster right now in this receiver room can do some of the things he can do. And he's pretty smooth. Harrison Graham, shout out him, is, mentioned how fluid he is. And, the route running is all the traits are there for a good receiver. So I think this guy could be really good for the Bears as a fifth or sixth option, a guy that, let's say Roma Dunze, knock on wood, he doesn't get hurt, but if he gets hurt and you need somebody to fill in at the X receiver position, Collin Johnson could do that. So this is a guy that you have no choice but to root for him. The story is great. This is a good guy. The press conference was emotional. It was heartfelt. He talked a little about his journey. He was tearing up and stuff. This is a guy that I think deserves a shot on this roster. And you look at, who he's competing with to make this team. Dante Pettis, he fumbled in the game. And Velus Jones, he didn't play in the game. Maybe he's a guy that's going to make the roster for sure. He's a safe bet. But him and DeAndre Carter, I think they're competing for that sixth spot or maybe fifth spot, because if he didn't play in the game and he's a safe bet, he's probably going to make the roster. But Collin Johnson, I really like this guy's play. I really like what he did in the Hall of Fame game, and I think these next couple games, these 3 preseason games, he's going to get even more opportunity to show what he can do. And if he has another performance like this, maybe 2 more performances like this, he's going to make the roster. You have no choice but to put this guy on the roster. Just talent is there. 27 years old too, so maybe this is a guy that we can get for the low and move forward with him as a depth receiver. I mean, you look at Equanimeous St. Brown, the big body receiver, him, a guy that can block, a guy that can, do some things, catch a couple passes when you need him to. So maybe he could fill that role, because that's a guy that, I wanted the Bears to resign and they didn't. So Collin Johnson, man, I'm excited to see him continue to cook up this preseason and see what else he can do. Hopefully he gets that confidence, because like I said, he has a great story and this is a guy I'm definitely rooting for these next couple weeks. Brett Rippin too, he had a great game, 11 for 15, 160 passing yards, perfect passer rating, damn near 3 touchdowns. He looked really comfortable and confident in this offense. This is the offense he's familiar in. And Shane Waldron, the play calling was there. This offense looked pretty good. It looks like Brett Rippin can compete to make this roster, I think. Quarterback 2, maybe if he has a couple more performances like this, maybe that's a conversation, but I think Tyson Bagent has won over this locker room. This is a guy that the team has bought into as a quarterback 2, as a guy to come in if Caleb Williams does, get hurt or nicked up. But Brett Rippin is a guy I think I would want in this locker room. He's a guy that I would want on this roster as a quarterback 3. This is a guy that knows the offense and is shown already in the game that he could go out there, play confident, control the offense, make checks, hey, man coverage, Collin Johnson on the outside, I'm going to throw the ball to him. I'm looking right at that and I'm throwing it to him and he's going to go up and get it. So this is a quarterback that's very great in situations, great knowledge of this offense. This is a guy that I think I would lean more towards allowing him to make this roster. You had Nathan Peterman on the roster last year and I mean, he was ass, so why not get Brett Rypien and bring him on this roster as well. So Brett Rypien and Collin Johnson, I think, were the two biggest winners for the Chicago Bears in the Hall of Fame preseason game. I'm excited to see them do some more things these next preseason games. Excited to see Caleb Williams and the starters, though. So, but that's all I have for this game. Let me know some other winners that you think had some great performances and some losers as well. I know Dominique Robinson, some other guys, Keith Randolph. Who are some losers in this last performance? Let me know in the comments. But I would want him to get an extension done with, Keenan Allen. I would want him to stay with the Chicago Bears for maybe 2 or 3 more years because he's coming off his best season last year with the Chargers.